Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow delegates and observers. I'm pleased to speak from the European and Central Asian region to identify key concerns identified by the NGO community. Across Europe, migrants and black and minority ethnic populations continue to be represented as a significant part of the epidemic. They are particularly stigmatised and marginalised because they are either visible minorities or because of their immigration status. They are coming from, or their families are from, war-torn countries and unstable democracies. In some cases, they come from high endemic countries where HIV is rife and arrive not knowing their HIV status and are disproportionately diagnosed late. And others becoming even more vulnerable to HIV because of the process of migration itself. They confront deportation, destitution, detention, dispersal, and even death in some cases. Men who have sex with men would make up the largest of the new diagnoses in this region. Around 40% of the reported HIV diagnoses in Western Europe are a result of sex between men. In Central Europe, this figure is slightly less, at around 30%. Men who have sex with men continue to be highly represented in the epidemic, despite the efforts to have targeted prevention interventions. In Eastern Europe, the needs of these men are particularly stark, as they remain a hidden population, and are particularly marginalised and stigmatised by society with no access to services that meet their health or psychosocial needs. Across the region, and in fact across the world, people who use drugs remain a criminalised population, which hinders the HIV response. During the 1980s and 90s, Western Europe tried out two very different approaches to HIV and injecting drug use. One based on the greatest criminalisation and the rejection of harm reduction, and the other based on rapid embracing of the need of needle exchange programs, opiate substitution therapies, outreach, and other harm reduction strategies. The results were starkly contrasted, with HIV rates among people who inject drugs being contained at 5% and below in those deploying harm reduction interventions, while those who rejected harm reduction saw HIV rates among people who inject drugs jump to 50% and above. This experience led to the adoption of harm reduction across almost every country, or every country in the European Union, resulting in the containment of HIV epidemics among people who use drugs, and my community's better engagement in health and social care systems. However, sadly, Europe is once again seeing concentrated epidemics driven by injecting drug use. Across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, we have seen a rapid escalation in injecting drug use and alarming HIV rates. There is growing anger and frustration from my community and from civil society more generally that the UN-endorsed HIV prevention interventions are being denied despite a strong evidence base, condemning people who inject drugs to lives of exclusion, ill health, and too often death. I commend and congratulate those countries such as Ukraine, Romania, Moldova, Latvia, Lithuania, and Azerbaijan, for example, who are responding pragmatically and humanely to this injecting drug use-based epidemic by introducing needle exchange and opiate substitution, which models best practice, saves money, and gives hope to those too often pushed onto the margins of society. Thank you.